When I go to the riverbank, the dark man under the tree steals my heart with the call of his flute.
That dark man's name is Krishna. 33 million milkmaids longed for this dark man, while he played hide and seek with them, often vanishing into a forest with his favorite beloved called Radha. While Krishna secretly enacted a playful love game with Radha, the milkmaids despaired of physical union with him. Full of anxiety, it was the pain of separation that nourished their love for Krishna. Braj, the area in and around Mathura in North India, is the legendary birthplace of Krishna, the Hindu embodiment of the erotic mood. A god, often at the mercy of his beloved Radha. Said to be married, Radha is described as a proud woman, shunning her lover when angry. But with endearing love, Krishna would seduce her into union again and again.
It's very difficult.
Is this the story of a god or a man?
Normally
It's hard to tell because Krishna lives like a real image in the mind of his devotees.
Sometimes,
Dancers Uma Sharma, who recreates the legends of Krishna on stage, says,
you see, I'm very devoted to Krishna, but I cannot be a Meera. I would rather be a Radha. I have always imagined like that Krishna. और मैं कृष्ण की रास की पेंटिंग्स देखती हूँ, I see Radha and Krishna, I visualize them and very strong about it that he could be my lover. I mean, if it is possible, then I want Krishna, जैसे कृष्ण ने प्रेम किया राधा से, if that is possible.
And the poet explained the magic.
How can I describe his relentless flute, which pulls virtuous women from their homes and drags them by their hair to Sham, as thirst and hunger pull the doe to the snare? Then, how shall a simple dairymaid withstand its call?
Driven to erotic fantasy love for Krishna, Antal, a female devotee cum poetess, in the 11th century exclaimed,
I have lost the beauty of my breasts and my red lips since he violated me. In the sole desire to unite with him, my breasts grew large and jumped in joy. Now they make my life melt away and cause such agony.
I think the erotic imagery in the poetry and sculpture and art forms on Krishna, they give us that scope to fantasize and also accept the cravings as natural.
And Lord Krishna himself helps, bringing divine love to earth, arousing and sustaining sexual desire in women with symbols like his flute and the peacock. Once Radha was so angry that Krishna danced like a peacock to amuse her, until once again Radha was charmed by a seductive performance.
Nothing more obsesses the male mind, for instance, than being a constant lover, having innumerable affairs, always the paradigm of the great performer sexually. And Krishna forms that role. This is the male fantasy about himself, that if he could be like that, any woman he could lay and yet not be finished, not be exhausted. Krishna fills that role. And then also the fact that he was the supreme seducer with his music, with his charm, with his way with women, his dancing, all that fills the male fantasy.
This real fantasy world is free of barriers between God and humans, between humans and animals. Hindu love stories have birds, fish and insects as their heroes. Like God, animals are seen with human qualities. Such monkeys are considered sacred and roam freely in temple grounds. Accepting them as part of life is like accepting sexuality as part of life. Creation is continuity of life, and creation needs the union of male and female. Whether in animals or humans, it is really all the same. The Radha-Krishna love stories give a place of permanence to sexuality in religion, and the sanction for erotic fantasies and desires, even if they go against the existing moral beliefs of society.
In Hindu religion, somehow sex has always been very intricately woven into the fabric of living, so that at any given time, one never felt that it is something separate from your worship, your day-to-day living, and it is never considered as a sin.
Where then is that hedonistic society full of sex? Obviously, no Moses is needed here to save men and women from immoral lives. Then where does reality meet fantasy?
To me, Krishna has been not just a god, but he is more like a friend and guide and philosopher, as they say. I feel very close to him, and I feel I can confide everything I get, all my feelings to him without any inhibition. And to me, somehow God is someone who has to accept you as what you are, with your faults, with your feelings, and whatever you may feel, whatever shortcomings you may have, and whatever cravings you may have. You should be able to confide to one person, and that is Krishna for me. So I think knowing about this will give the children also a direction to their lives, and not feel guilty if they have any physical cravings. And it tells you how to accept them, and how to encourage them, and how to make them feel easy about it and not guilty that they have such feelings in them. But it's not wrong to be that, because the Lord himself had those feelings. The Lord himself had those cravings to be with women.
If all youngsters had mothers like Mrs. Lakshmi, then home after a late night might not be hell, but heaven. Like life is for Aparna. Her thoughts may startle the conservatives when she says,
I don't mind, because I think love is something great. If he's going to love someone else, it means he's going to learn more. Then whenever he'll come to me, he'll love me more, because he's already experienced. He can make more amendments, right? I'll get a perfect. They'll get, the kiddie ones, but I'll get the perfect.
the perennial instinct for love and sex is common to all of us. Like these youngsters, some of us are lucky to play out our desires. For some, they remain fantasies. This devotee in a Mathura temple has focused her fantasies on Krishna. Talking to him, she says,
I am writing to you that I have given myself up to you in marriage, in union.
The concept of such a union with God is transfixed in the mind of the religious Hindu. And somehow the worship of sex, if it could be called that, becomes a kaleidoscope of the sensual and the spiritual, the erotic and the divine. Some Hindus believe erotic sculpture is on temple walls because too much religion can make men forget about sex. Well, it certainly seems more convenient than hiding porn magazines under the bed.
Sex was never considered as obscene. You have a look at the temples of Khajuraho and Belur. You see, I mean, it was described so openly at such holy places. Do you think that if sex was considered sinful, would it be, I mean, would it have a place at such holy places? No. Sex was accepted and respected at that time, and we also need to make sex and sexuality acceptable and respectable.
Why should sexuality need to be made acceptable where there is explicit eroticism? The sensuality of traditions like Krishna worship come back into society in subtler forms, where the moral code colors it with layers of spiritual meaning. But the love legends live on, as dancers nurture the erotic imagery through poetic and artistic expression. Eons ago, full of desire, on the autumn night of the full moon, the milkmaids or gopis hastened to the forest. The gopis loved Krishna as much as Radha did. Each gopi wanted Krishna to herself on that full moon night. So the Lord multiplied himself into many Krishnas to satisfy each gopi. And the call of the flute culminated in the night-long circular dance. A night that was to feel 6 months long. The Maharas, the great dance. Who knows what womanly pain and suffering in that distant past created this fantasy for a night of freedom and abandon. The reality of today's average Indian woman can be harsh and cruel. Suppression, sex discrimination, problems of dowry. In the extreme but not rare case, a life of total degradation. In the face of poverty, men even sell their wives, sisters and daughters into prostitution. Do these women have sexual fantasies? Here in the capital city, New Delhi, one prostitute says that foreigners make her do crazy things. But what the hell? It's her job to satisfy them, she says. For these living objects of fantasy, it's business as usual. But the lure of a crazy paid-for night in danger zone isn't for everybody. In India, people talk a lot about feature films, the proverbial opium of the masses. Popular stars attract audiences with the call of their songs. With approximately 3 feature films released every day, there is an intoxicating fantasy world to emulate. This song, evoking freedom and joy, symbolized through drugs and Krishna, says, "Take a drag, let sorrow be washed away. Chant every morning and evening, O Lord Krishna."
Obviously, the viewers are interested in romantic scenes, in near erotic scenes. They are forbidden. You can't have nudity of any kind, not. So they will do is to pick up bosomy women or fat bottom women, very tightly dressed, and make them go through acts of copulation with their dresses on. And you see that in Hindi songs. They are neither one nor the other. They won't allow kissing, but they allow such gestures which can only suggest acts of copulation, whether they are running around or something, or jerking their middles or sticking out their bosoms. It's all meant to be to arouse the libidinous in the human being.
And the justifications for such cinema are slotted within symbols of religious sanction and social acceptance. Like this hero enjoying himself with another man's wife, but on the occasion of Holi, the festival of spring. Holi is the climax of the divine and the physical in the land of Braj. Carnival time, when barriers are broken and urges played out through revelry. Every village has its own stories about Krishna and his cowherd friends playing Holi with Radha and the gopis. And they reenact various events from the Krishna legends of Holi. They say there is no Holi in India like in Braj. Do feelings of freedom and love culminate in such frenzy, like the unabandoned joy of a Woodstock festival? But a Woodstock cutting across all age groups, with even the moral guiding forces of society, like religious leaders singing amongst them. For religious men, joy is as important as suffering, because the true ascetic must overcome the pleasure and pain of both. That is what Krishna, in his later lover-turned-philosopher form, was to tell his devotees. In the religious text Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "When a man puts away all the cravings that arise in the mind and finds comfort for himself only from the soul, then he is the man of secure understanding." The same philosopher, Krishna, is celebrated in his erotic form as the dark love god in Braj. Priests ready a bed of flowers for the divine couple every evening. Even today, devotees believe that Radha, Krishna and the gopis come to dance in the sacred groves in Braj. And so a bed is kept ready for the great lover and his beloved, so that he may still perform a leela, the divine play, of the seducer, or of the vanished lover, or of the gentle lover at the service of his Radha. Even the Lord put himself at the service of Shriji and considered Shriji his superior. Here, Bihariji is not considered superior. Here, Shriji is considered superior, and Bihariji is considered as Shriji's das. The Lord and the beloved merge in an identical mood of submission. In classical Indian dances, the dancer evokes that unity in a melody of movement. One moment, she is the bedecked Krishna. In another, the beloved. Breasts heavy with longing, seducing the flute player into union. As in this song from the Krishna love poems called Geet Govind, the male and female elements become inseparable in the concepts of dance, divinity and Krishna.
प्रभु ने जहाँ तक जो ये वृंदावन जो रास की भूमि है,
The Lord at Vrindavan, with his own eyelashes, cleaned away the dust, swept it, because Shriji will come here to perform Ras. So whatever Leela or divine game Bihariji performed, all was for Shriji's pleasure and happiness. Even today, our feeling of love and respect is greater for Shriji. Shriji is considered Bihariji's Adi Shakti, the primal female force. Without her, Bihariji is considered incomplete. Shakti, or the female aspect of divinity, is the energizing force of Hindu gods. This idol of Radha Krishna, Ek Pran Do De, or one soul, two bodies, symbolizes the inseparable nature of the male from the female. In the absence of unity, the deep longing for union persists. Every woman was not the Radha that Krishna chose, and the gopis were full of despair and loneliness, wandering in pain, waiting for the Dark Lord, endlessly. What is this emptiness that sends them in search of Krishna? Lonely widows and destitute women are a common sight in Braj. Traditionally, widows have been treated as outcasts in India, omens of evil, to be avoided on happy occasions. In the gory past, once in a while even now, women threw themselves on the funeral pyre of their husbands to spare themselves the humiliation of widowhood. In the devotional homes here, these women spend their remaining lives invoking Krishna, the only focus left for them to love and belong to. The plight of the widows is similar to people like sweepers, barbers, carpenters, and others who are given a low status by the caste system in India. Their pain and search has often led them to Christ, by which they get a social status and compassion in the eyes of God. Born a commoner like Christ, legend says Krishna also came to free the world of demons and give the message of love. But the divine calling of Christ and Krishna are heard differently.
What sudden sound from the woods startled my ears? What essence of life, sweetness and poetry, raised sadness and wonder in my heart? How can I describe the stir? The sound persists from the enticing flute as poison and life.
Unable to resist the call, one day the gopis stole Krishna's flute. When he asked them why, they answered that on hearing his call, they hastened to him, leaving tasks undone. Half-fed infants, half-cooked food, and hungry husbands. How dare he entice them away from home with his divine music? Krishna's stories depict the gopis as married women, breaking the social code to be with him, something an average Indian woman would find impossible to do. Women beaters, alcoholics, rapists in the name of husbands, all are accepted as part of reality and fate. But at holy time, they come square with the men. Breaking kinship barriers and enjoying the thrill of obscene conversation, women revel in sadistic liberation from 360-odd days of frustration, anger, and suppression. But when life gets back to normal, the women glide back into fantasy world, finding excitement and joy in symbolic events like the swing festival, singing out in longing.
Has he forgotten to come? Has he lost his way? Night has befallen. Is he with another woman?
Emotions of intense longing for fulfilled love or growing sexuality are all dealt with boldly and honestly in Braj. The recreation of Krishna's Leela, or divine play, often hinges on young boys. Struggling with their sexual identity, adolescents enact the roles of Radha, Krishna and the gopis. The juveniles play act through possible transvestite inclinations within a permissive backdrop, where the masculine and the feminine, within individuals and amidst society, seems to merge into a common experience, which converts the feminized adolescents from make-believe to reality. In effect, God. The feminine is never far from the mind of a Krishna devotee. Being the beloved of God demands acceptance of the feminine elements within oneself.
Ein Mann hat weibliche Teile genauso wie eine Frau männliche Teile.
A man has feminine aspects in the same way as the woman has masculine aspects, which during our development are suppressed. But to rediscover these and to experience them, one needs not just cultural support, but also personal openness, personal experiments. I believe it is not so difficult. Even in Europe, there were mystics in the Middle Ages who felt like women, had discovered the feminine in themselves, and their thinking was also influenced by female traits. It's not unthinkable for other cultures. It's not just only in Hinduism. But the countless love stories of Krishna's Leela or divine play are Hindu in essence. One of Krishna's popular Leela is called Cheer Haran. The story goes, the gopis were out bathing in the river as usual. The mischievous lover Krishna stole their clothes, climbed up a tree, and watched them in delight. Shocked into shame, the gopis begged him, but Krishna refused, insisting they come forward, devoid of shame, with hands raised. Only then would he return their clothes. Did this incident have any special meaning for the gopis, or for that matter for God? I don't know what it means to God. I cannot speak for God. But for the gopis and for the people, it means a way of accepting God without shame, without convention, totally naked. And that is the only way to come close to God. First, to open oneself totally. This nudity is a metaphor for this openness and transparency, and the presence of God in oneself. Krishna still thrives on the total submission of his devotees.
I have a श्रीनाथ जी की पिक्चर मेरे कमरे में, और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि श्रीनाथ जी जो मेरे कमरे में हैं, वो मुझे देख देख कर ये कहते रहते हैं कि आखिरकार आओगी तो तुम मेरे ही पास में. Daily I get this feeling because Srinath ji in Srinath Dware is a bachelor, whereas Bihari ji is married. But मुझे कभी कभी ऐसा ही लगता है कि he keeps telling me आओगी तो तुम मेरे ही पास में.
Cloth after cloth tied to the legendary Cheer Haran tree symbolizes every devotee's acceptance to totally submit to the divine lover, the dark love god called Krishna.